In this video, I'm going to show you how to create access codes. So in our web browser, let's go up to the address bar and we will type in www.gmetrix.net/manage. Press enter, and here we are at the management login. So here we want to enter in our administrative credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and put in mine. And then I'll click login. Okay, so here we are inside the administrator panel. So again, we want to create an access code. So if we look at the left-hand side navigation, we see access codes. Let's click that. And underneath we see create. Let's go ahead and click that. Alrighty, so now we are in the wizard that will help us create an access code. The first step is to choose a license. Now, in my case, I have a lot of licenses here, mostly because this is a test account. So we've got a lot of random licenses that are shown here. In your case, more than likely, you'll only have one license to choose from. Either way, you'll want to select the license that you want to use, and then we'll go ahead and click Next. Alrighty, now we are at the Configure Code page. This is the most important part. So here, this allows us to customize our code. So the first thing that we want to look at is this identifier field. Now you'll see on the left-hand side and the right-hand side these X's. And this confuses a lot of people, but all this is it's saying that these X's, when this code is created, will be replaced by randomly generated numbers. But in the center, we're able to put in an identifier. So this is solely to make life easier for you. This allows you to name the access code so that in the future you know what is this access code. So for example, perhaps I'm a teacher or an instructor and I teach several classes. So I could put in period 1. So this way I know in the future that this access code belongs to my first period class. So again, this is solely so that you know what is this access code. So enter in something that will be helpful for you to distinguish the access code in the future. You could also put your name in there as well. And if I'm not mistaken, there is an 8-character limit. Okay, so I'm going to leave that period 1. Now we have code type. We have two different types of codes. We have single user code, and what this is it will create a access code that only a single student can use. So after I've selected single user, you'll see on the right codes. So it's saying how many single user access codes would you like to create. So for example, if I put in 5, this means that it will create 5 single user access codes. So only one user can use each of these access codes. Now, in most cases, especially in a school setting, you will want to choose multiple user. Here's why. Multiple user will create a single access code which allows multiple users to use it. So again, I've selected multiple user. Next to users per code, I'm able to put in the number of users that I want to be allowed to use the code. So for example, let's say I have a class of 25 students. I might put in 30 here just to add some room. Perhaps more students come into the class and I want more students to be allowed to use the code. I have 25 students, but I'm going to put 30 just in case more add. So with that current setting, a single access code will be created, but 30 students will be able to use that same access code. So I'm going to leave that like that. Alright, now we're looking at expires after. These options are for restricting the access code in a few ways. So the first you'll see is uses. Now what this means is that the student will be able to take X amount of tests with this access code. So with this currently set at 1,000, the student would be able to take 1,000 tests with this access code. And so realistically, they would probably never hit that number. And again, this is per student. So each student would be able to take it 1,000 times. So if you wanted to restrict it, for example, maybe you only want your students to be able to take 5 tests and then they're not allowed to take any more, then I would clear that out and put in 5. Otherwise, if you want your student to be able to take an unlimited amount of tests, we'll put that back to 1000. That's the max setting. Okay, and now here is days, and this is basically another restriction. So this is saying how many days do I want to allow my student to be able to take tests with this access code. And it's important to note that if, for example, let's say I set this to 7 days, so they only have a week to take tests. It's important to note that the countdown on days begins when the student first uses the access code. So it doesn't start when you create the access code. It'll start counting down when the student takes their first test using this access code. So I'm not going to restrict this one, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back to 395. So again, those are just options to restrict the code. If you don't care about any of that, just leave it all at its default. Alright, next we have tests. So this shows us a list of all the available tests that we are allowing our students to take. So currently all of the checkboxes are selected. We have Microsoft Office 2007, Microsoft Office 2010, and Microsoft Windows. So again, this is all about customization. If you don't care, then you can leave all of these checked, and your students will be able to take all the tests from 2007, all the tests from 2010, and all of the tests from Microsoft Windows. But maybe you're teaching a class that is only Microsoft Office 2010. So you may as well unselect 2007 and Microsoft Windows. This way, when your students use the access code, they will only be able to see and take the Microsoft Office 2010 tests. So what if underneath Office 2010 there's a certain test that I don't want my students to be able to take? If we go over to the left-hand side and click the plus sign, it expands the list and we can see all of the different tests. So for example, let's say that I want my student to not be able to take the PowerPoint test. I can simply uncheck this box. They will not be able to take the test, nor will they even see it as an option when they log into the software. So I'm going to recheck that, and let's assume that within PowerPoint there is a certain pool of questions that we do not want the students to have access to. We can click the plus sign yet again. And here are the two different pools of questions available for PowerPoint 2010. So if I only want them to have access to pool 2, I could uncheck Core Test 1 Testing and Core Test 1 Training. They will only have access to Core Test 2 Training and Testing. So as you can see, you can really customize things here. Alrighty, next up we have Allow Review. Now what this does is when a student finishes a test in testing mode, if this box is checked, it allows the students to go back and review any questions that they may have missed. This doesn't change their final score whatsoever, it just allows them to review the questions. Basically, it's a learning tool. If you'd like them to be able to go back and look at the questions that they had missed, it allows them to do so. If you don't want them to be able to do that, just uncheck this box. I'm going to leave it checked for now. And finally, the last option is group. Now, if you have no idea what groups are, you haven't created a group, then completely ignore this setting and leave it at default. If you have created a group, this is where you can attach this access code that you're creating to a group. So if you had a group, you would drop down the list and select the group that you would like it to be attached to. So again, I'm going to leave that as default. If you don't know what groups are, don't worry about it. And let's go ahead and we will click Next now that everything has been chosen. Alrighty, and we are now on the Confirm Settings step. So we're going to look through all of our customization that we did, everything that we entered and selected, and everything looks good. So I'm going to click Next once more. Alright, and now we see a green box that says the codes have been successfully created. Now if we look down towards the bottom of the page, here's the access code that I actually created. And so once again, as I was saying earlier, those X's have turned into randomly generated numbers, In the middle, we see period 1, which is the identifier that I had chosen, and on the end we have more randomly generated numbers. So that is perfect. As well, it shows the products that this access code gives the user access to. So there's all of the 2007 tests and all of the 2010 tests. So there you have it. We've created our first access code. It wasn't too bad. There's just a lot of customization that is allowed, and so sometimes that can be confusing. Hopefully this video was helpful in helping you understand how to create an access code. So this is now the access code that you would actually give to your students that they can then enter into the GMetrix software when they are ready to begin taking tests.